Hey there, gang. Time for another comic book unboxing video. As always, I've been given this short box of comic books to grade for sale on eBay, but I have no idea what is in this box until I break into it, and I wait to do that until you're here to join me. So, if you like comic books, stick around. We're going to have some fun. Hey there, Bubby. Welcome to Shanghala. My name is Duke, and this is another unboxing video. So, like I said, I always have no idea what is in this box beyond the broad parameters, because I am not the guy who breaks down the collections when they come into our warehouse and divide them into different sales streams, whether they are big books that go to CGC or smaller books that go into multi-book lots on eBay or into our retail store, or if they are the books that end up on my desk, sort of the mid-grade books, the books that are going to be sold on eBay as what we call raw singles, unslabbed, just regular as they are. And my job is to grade those books up for sale. So this video is really just me unpacking the box, seeing what I've got to work with, and it's a chance for us to just kind of chit-chat and reminisce about some good old comic books of usually silver and bronze age. Sometimes we get some newer books, sometimes some older books, but usually that's kind of the ballpark we're shooting at. Books that we would expect to sell on eBay for, say, between 10 and 100 bucks. And as far as Silver Age goes, I think that is exactly what we are going to get in this box, because this box had that little post-it note you see there that says Warren on it. That note was stuck to the top of the box. And Warren is significant, I think, because if you'll remember the last video we did, the so-called MW collection, a lot of the books had the initials MW written on them, and we decided that the M was Mike, because some of the books had Mike written on them as well. Well, I think the W stands for Warren, as on that post-it note. So I suspect, based on that, and based on the fact that all of these books look to be in kind of the same similar vintage bags and boards, just looking at the edges of them here, I think we're going to be looking at a lot of late silver, maybe a few early Bronze Age books, and probably a lot of Batman and Spider-Man. So, if those are the things you like, then please do stick around and, like, share, subscribe, comment, do all the groovy things. This isn't just me yakking at you. This is kind of intended to be a dialogue. So please do chime in the comments below with any thoughts you have on these books or anything that I might say. So with that said, let us pull out the first stack of books. See what we've got to work with here. And okay, well, right off, at least to judge by this top book, I was wrong. Not the first time that's ever happened, believe it or not. So no date. So that means this is late 88, early 89, about the time that DC changed over from dating its books 3 months ahead to dating them just 1 month ahead. The 3 month ahead thing was, that was kind of a newsstand ploy, which has since kind of come back into fashion. But the idea was that the cover date on the book, people get confused, especially a novice in comic book collecting. They get confused. They think the cover date is when is the date of the book. No, the cover date is not an on sale date. It's an off sale date. That's when the book is intended to be pulled off of the stands. And it's, back during the era when books were returnable to the distributor, and so it was around this time, late 88, early 89, when DC realized, well, we're selling very few books on the newsstand anymore. Everything goes to the direct sales shop, so let's close in that off sale date and put it just 1 month ahead instead of the 3. And of course, the idea with the 3 was it gave the books a little more time on the stands, in theory, so that they'd maybe find an audience and sell a little better. Wouldn't come back for credit quite so soon. And so around this time, like I said, DC closed up that date. They've since re-expanded it a little bit. But during that time frame, and this is right around the time of the DC Invasion big crossover event, the books had no dates. And then there was a month where they all just said holiday. And then they were, they kind of caught up to themselves, and then they were dated for several years anyway, just 1 month ahead. Anyway, so another one of my long, boring, nothing burger stories. But I keep adding, subscribers, one here, one there. I'm not going to hit monetization in my first year like I had hoped, but we're getting enough love here on the channel that, I don't know, I guess some of you at least like listening to me ramble. But anyway, Detective Comics number 608. This is the first appearance of Anarchy. And you don't see much of Anarchy, so it's a book that I wonder why it's still kind of a thing. You would think that this book would have sort of come back down. But there's a lot of books that they kind of go up and they just sort of plateau and they never come back down again. People just get it in their idea that it's worth that for whatever reason. We've talked about the New Warriors and things like that. Or Micronauts number 8 with the first Captain Universe. So, I don't know why this book stays right up there in value. Nobody really knows Anarchy anymore. He hasn't appeared for years and years and years. But it is Breyfogle, and the Alan Grant and Norm Breyfogle period was a fun era in Detective Comics. Maybe not the high point. For me, the high point was, there's of course the classic Steve Englehart, Marshall Rogers run of the mid-70s. But then of the kind of early mid-80s, there was a run where Batman and Detective Comics effectively worked as a bi-weekly book. The story was continued back and forth between those two titles, and it was written by Jerry Conway and Doug Moench, I think is how you pronounce it, or Mensch. I really don't know. Even after all these years, I don't know how to pronounce his name. If you know, let me know in the comments below. And the art was by Gene Colan in one book and just the incomparable Don Newton in the other. And to me, that was the high point of Batman Detective. But the Alan Grant Breyfogle years were fun as well. Well, we spent a lot of time talking about that book. We beat that up pretty good. By the way, talk about the crazy prices in the marketplace. I've already mentioned, I don't get why this book is still kind of way up there. But lately, the last year or so, if you can get a book in a 9698 graded by CGC, it'll do stupid. And this thing will go for $150, $175, $200 as a high grade CGC. This one will probably hit about the minimum mark we look at for a raw single $10. All right. This is the green logo, I think, is maybe a first print. Batman the Killing Joke. Let's take a look. This is a book you always want to check which printing you have. And I believe, I don't have the colors memorized, but usually the color logo gives you a clue as well. And so it should be right in here. And this actually does say first printing, so that's good. But this is a book where some of the later printings are actually worth more or as much. And I don't know why. In book collecting, it's not that way. Everybody wants the first print. But in comics, because some of the later printings were fewer books in the run, those peak in value. All right, well, now we're into some Silver Age books. Here is Action Comics 340. This is the first appearance of The Parasite by Jim Shooter. Supergirl number 1. So this book came about, Supergirl appeared as a backup in Action Comics for years and years and years. And then towards the end of the Silver Age, very tail end, as Mort Weisinger was getting ready to retire, the editor, Mort Weisinger, he swapped Supergirl with the Legion, put Supergirl from the backup in Action to the lead in Adventure, and the Legion from the lead in Adventure to the backup in Action. And that only lasted maybe, I don't know, year and a half, and then they gave Supergirl her own title, and they started doing anthology stuff in Adventure Comics. And this title only lasted, I think, like 11 issues, and then it merged with Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane to become Superman Family. But anyway, there's number 1. Here's some classic Justice League. And, aha, CMW. So this is part of the, I am now going to call this the Mike Warren collection. We have now finally, at long last, it took us 2 videos, but we have figured out MW's full name. So there's a JLA, JSA crossover, something I wish they still did, but it's hard to do when you have everything kind of scrunched together on one Earth, one world, one continuity. I just wish we could have the old multiverse back. Hey, look at this. Amazing Spider-Man number 100. And that looks, well, no, I was going to say it looks fairly high grade, but that bottom staple is blown. Actually, top staple's blown too. That cover's probably detached. But that'll still do well. I mean, except for that, it's a nice looking book. This is Amazing Spider-Man 39, part of the Mike Warren collection. And this is the first John Romita issue after Steve Ditko quit. So there you go. And you can see kind of in the hands here, Romita is, sort of imitating Ditko a little bit, trying to smooth out that transition. Number 34, and here you can see MW, Mike has written his first name. There's a Craven story for you. Number 49. That's a different vulture. There have been about 20 different vultures. 48. Another vulture. X-Men number 53. Again, an MW book. 63. It's a Neil Adams book. It's kind of a, I don't know. It looks more like a Neil Adams sketch than a Neil Adams cover, but it looks like a convention sketch he would have whipped out in about 4 minutes. Here's the Mimic, number 69. This is actually a reprint. They went into reprints with issue number 67, all the way up until the new X-Men would make their debut in issue 94. Or, I mean, after Giant Size X-Men number 1, and then starting in 94. So these are all reprints. 92. Moving backwards, here is X-Men number 18. If Iceman Should Fail. Floating heads. Gotta love the floating heads. All right, next stack. Let's see what we've got here. So yeah, well, I guess after those first two books, I guess I was right after all. This is looking like part of the MW Mike Warren collection. No initials on this one, but we're still Silver Age. Oh, there's Mike written there. Juggernaut. And I asked you in the last video, and I'll ask you again here in this video, if you didn't comment last time or didn't watch that video, is this a deal breaker for you? As I said, if the book's in decent condition, and for me, I'm not a stickler. I'm perfectly content with a Silver Age book that's a 6.0 or even like a 5.5 or whatever. As long as it's in a good, decent, readable condition. And this would not deter me. I mean, if somebody had written all over the book, that alone is, to me, kind of the charm. I don't like so much that it's in marker, because that will continue to bleed over the years. But is it a deal breaker for you? Would you not want that book because it has, the kid's initials written on it? You tell me. Mechanico lives, or just Mechano. Sorry. Typical Mainer, I had to add a syllable in there. There's a Steranko cover. And we're back to Worlds of Finest. 177. I don't know why I said back to. It's the first one we've seen. Back to DC, I guess. Wonder Woman. Perils of the Paperman. You think, the Paperman would be a good villain. Especially if, maybe he could recall news stories and events, headlines, bring them to life. Kind of like the Bizarro Tattoo Man. where the Tattoo Man can bring images to life. If this image could bring real people to life. I don't know. Didn't mean this video to turn into a pitch meeting. Wonder Woman starring Supergirl. Klamos is the name of the villain. Tales of Suspense, number 75. So yeah, looks like this is going to be all mostly Silver Age, Marvel, and DC. And if you're a comic book fan, that's probably what you like to see anyway. Yeah, because I see so much Marvel and DC, and because that's mostly what I bought as a kid, I really like seeing, the Gold Key, the Archie, the Harvey, the Dells, those kind of things. They're just, I don't know, they're cooler to me, just because all this stuff I've seen a million times. Although, to be honest with you, I haven't read these books. I mean, I've read, the beginnings of the Marvel Universe in the various, omnibuses and collections, starting with Origins of Marvel Comics and Son of Origins, and the various archives from the DC side of the street. Here's Thor, nice cover there. But and then myself as a young collector, I didn't really come along until the mid 70s, 75, 76. That 77 to 78 era is kind of my golden age. I think this is the first Ego, The Living Planet. So there's a key issue for you. But these kind of late Silver Age books, I really haven't, I handle these books all the time, but I don't really have many of them at all in my own collection, even though I've got like 26,000 comic books. I'm very sparse on, mid to late Silver Age, very early Bronze Age. And I like to call this the giant dildo cover, but I probably shouldn't. If I was monetized, I would get demonetized in a hurry. But yeah, I haven't read a lot of these stories. I mean, I'm familiar with the covers. I've flipped through a lot of them. One of these days, we get a nice run of, Thor or Spider-Man or Tales of Suspense or other things like this. And before I grade them up and send them back to be listed on eBay, I got to just sit down and read a whole run, just so I can say it's something I've done. Well, let's take a look at the next stack here. Now we're over to Tales to Astonish, and again, it's more late Silver Age. Mike, written there. The Abomination. Number 95, Go-Go Hulk. DC had the Go-Go checks. Marvel had the Go-Go Hulk. Number 97, we're closing in on the end of this title before it would transfer over to just being the Hulk. We're not going to get all the way there, though. Instead, we're going to transition over to the Silver Age, another Mike Warren book. Did I say the Silver Age? The Silver Surfer. Sorry. A little brain lock there. And this, this was purportedly Stan Lee's favorite book. But, it doesn't get a lot of love, and I've never read it. It's another thing I've got to sit down and just read. I mean, I'm familiar with it, but I've never actually read any of these books, and I suspect they're kind of wordy. This is where Stan kind of, by all accounts, kind of let his flowery, prosaic prose kind of reach its full fruit. And it was a little wordy. This was where Stan thought he was finally going to write that great American novel he was, saving his real name for, and decided, what the heck, it will be a comic book, but it just never kind of came off. Submariner, number 2, Cry Triton. A little more Triton here in number 3. Number 5, I think is that the first Tiger Shark? I think it might be. Some Lady Dorma action. This is a popular cover. This one sells real well. Unfortunate. Why couldn't he have put his MW here in the black? Wouldn't have been seen. Number 10. Barracuda. Another stack here. Number 11. Number 12. That kind of looks more like a Silver Age Kurt Swan, George Klein kind of alien, but such as this. And actually, it might even be George Klein inking that. He went over to Marvel kind of towards the very end of his career. Namor versus the Torch, 14. Number 20 versus Doctor Doom. And, I just never got the wings. And I have finally decided that it's artistic license, that those are not meant to be feathered wings, but are in fact meant to be like the wings on flying fish. Those are actually fins. And how they have enough strength to kind of propel him through the air, I don't know. I guess they could propel him through the air pretty easily if they can propel him at speed through the water. So, but in my mind, I've decided to stop thinking of these as I did when I was a kid as kind of feathered wings. And now I think of them as more like scaled wings, like on a flying fish. What about you? What do you think of the little ankle wings that Namor has? I mean, regular feathered wings, they don't make a lot of sense underwater. They have to be like some kind of finny wing. A finny wing. Just struck me funny. I don't know why. So that's the Golden Age Bullseye. No, I don't know who that is. Marvel Tales, early reprint title. It's a cheap way to get a lot of, well, cheapish way to get a lot of classic early Marvel stories. Oh, look at this, Metal Men, number 12. You know, if you look at Comicron.com and the sales figures compiled by, is it John Jackson Miller? Is that right? John Jacob Jingleheimer? I can't remember his name. But Metal Men, you know, at least early in its run, sold really, really well. And I got to tell you, I think Metal Men could do well today if DC were to use the Metal Men as kind of a vehicle for teaching science and engineering and chemical concepts, kind of STEM concepts, and sold that book through Scholastic, or marketed it as a teaching aid to homeschoolers. I think DC could do a lot with that. It could do a lot with a lot of its characters, and Marvel too, for that matter, and even Archie. If it didn't just rely on the traditional direct sales fanboy market, but began exploring new markets to use those characters in, such as, using them as educational tools. Anyway, that's my soapbox on that. Here's another early JLA JSA team up. I think this is the first Silver Age appearance of Mr. Terrific. I could be wrong, but I think it is. Here's some Go-Go checks. We were talking about Go-Go checks earlier. And those appeared from, I believe, December 65. These are on sale dates, not cover dates, until January 67, something like that. So really only about a little more than a year. Here's a Justice League, a little different logo. Still with the MW. More Justice League. Justice League was, this is kind of a classic cover. This is an 80-page giant featuring the stories where Green Arrow, the Atom, and Hawkman all joined. I think he joined in 4. He joined in, I want to say, 14. Hawkman didn't join until 31. I could have those numbers wrong. You look them up. Of course, these days the Justice League is like the Avengers. Everybody gets to be a member. It's not exactly an exclusive club anymore. Oh, hey, look what we have here. Not all Marvel and DC. We had a couple of these Super Comics books in the last box. So these are the books that a fellow by the name of Israel Waldman came into possession of the story is he came into possession of a printing press, and along with that there were the plates for a lot of old comic books, and so he just decided that since he had those plates, he could reprint those comic books. Which wasn't exactly legal. And you have to ignore the numbering. Like this Jungle Adventures, I don't see a number. But, a lot of them will start with like 17, 18, 19. The numbering system makes absolutely no sense. Does this one have a number on the inside? Nope, this could be a one-shot kind of a deal. But this Tanda, White Princess of the Jungle, who knows? Well, we could look it up and figure out where she came from. Captain Courage. But this is all stuff. He had the printing plates left over from whoever printed the book originally. And, you know, a lot of them were from very small fly-by-night publishers, and that might well be the case with this book. But he also printed, there were some Dollman stuff and, you know, other things. And, you know, you may think Dollman's fly-by-night, but he was a pretty big deal. Dollman was published almost all the way into the Silver Age. His classic Fantastic Four, number 55. That one does well on the back issue market, although it looks like, you know, Surfer's about to slide right. It doesn't really look like he's standing on that board, and in so much as he is, it looks like he's going to slide right off it. Anyway, but back to these. Sorry, got ahead of myself. These are just kind of fun books, because a lot of times the original book is hard to find, and in a few cases were never published. There are a few instances where he ended up with plates to a book that was never published, and largely because they were small publishers and some of them went out of business or couldn't pay their printing bill or whatever before the book actually got printed. But, you know, after the plates had been created. So, yeah. So if you ever see any, they're known as Super Comics, or some of them will have his initials. It'll say IW Publications. So those are fun little books. Moving on, Fantastic Four 58, 63, 64. And again, these are all books I've never actually read. I need to sit down and read them. Don't have any of them in my own collection, or mostly don't. His annual king size special number 5. Here's 69, I've Been Betrayed. We've got two of them. One with his initials, one without. Number 71, sizzling big action issue. Dun, 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 dun. 77, The Thing No More. That's a trope. That's a trope. The Thing reverts back to his original form. But then, oh, so sad, he's the Thing again. All right. Well, we flew through that, didn't we? Didn't we just fly through that? And we are on, believe it or not, Mr. Man, we are on the last stack. This is the last stack out of this box. So here's a classic cover. The Inhumans, Fantastic Four, getting ready to do battle. Number 84 in Latveria. Number 85, they're all hooked up to the thinking caps. I don't know what those are with the tape decks. Or, I don't know, is that supposed to be like a fan or something? Or is it a tape deck recording their thoughts? Maybe this looks like a little tape player. I don't know. Kirby's machinery was very intricate and very non-scientific at the same time. Part of its charm. I wonder if this is going to be Fantastic Four all the way through to the end. Number 90, The Skrull Takes a Slave. The Thing Enslaved. 92. Number 96. What do you think? What's your favorite era of the Fantastic Four? Mine is definitely the John Byrne era. I think the John Byrne era is actually even better than the early Stan Lee's Jack Kirby stuff. 103. I think this is this the first? I think Kirby quit after issue, I think 102. And then, is this the first one without him? There were a couple issues after he left. There was a story that he had started and not finished that kind of got recycled and reused. I forget what issue numbers those were in. I think that's the first non-Kirby issue. I think he only went to 102. And then 113, 110. Now this is the last book in the box, but let's take a moment and talk about this book. This book it comes in two versions. And, you know, for a lot of years, misprints really weren't valued in the comic book collecting community. Unlike coins or stamps, if something was a misprint, that was deemed an error and was looked upon with some derision. You know, it was less desirable than a a good copy. But then, you know, I don't know, long about the speculator boom of the 90s, and afterwards, there became this mania, just like we saw that Batman Killing joke earlier, became a mania for low print run second prints, third, fourth, fifth prints. There became a mania for, errors and alterations and variants and things like that. So this book has a variant. It's a miscoloring somewhere within the print run, and I don't know if it was in the middle or the very beginning or the very end, probably beginning or ending, where it either didn't have enough of one color or too much. But basically, everyone's skin is green. It's got a green tone to it, especially these fellas in here. And so if you get an issue of Fantastic Four number 110, and everybody's skin is colored kind of green, Bubby, that's a book you want to hang on to. It's a book that if it's in decent to high grade, you probably do want to send to CGC because that book's more valuable, and again, within the last few years has really taken off. So look for Fantastic Four number 110, and if you notice, everybody kind of looks like they're a little seasick. Don't discard it. Don't think that that's what they're supposed to look like. Maybe something weird going on, or they really are seasick or something. No, it's the miscolored variant error, and that's a book that has got some value to it. But anyway, that's it. That's that box. That's what I'm going to be working on grading. Let me know what you think of those books. Have you read any of those? Are you well versed in your late Silver Age Marvel? A little bit of DC in there, but it was mostly Marvel. Which of those books are your favorites? What would you recommend that I dive into? I mean, I've been collecting comic books for nigh on 50 years, but again, there's big holes in my collection where, my pecuniary abilities sometimes lacked my, trailed my ambition, as it were. But anyway, that's it. That's that box. We will see you the next time out. And until then, goodbye, good luck, and please be good to each other. Hey there, gang. Time for another comic book unboxing video. As always, I've been giving this box of books to self-a-grade on... Fuck me.